far. We don't really talk to people. Are you recording me?
Yeah.
Me rambling? The alcohol has kicked in. We're all doing Duolingo. TJ has his tutor 3 days a week as well. So I can read stuff. Duolingo, I'm killing on Duolingo, but that's about it. So like when we're out, I'm like the one, even in the States, I'd be the one that would be sitting here tomorrow talk to a server. I'm like the quiet, like stay by myself. So that's not helping me because so now like when Tamar's talking to the servers or wherever we're at, I'm like over here, I'm like, yeah, like cheering him on, like, good job, babe, good job. That was good. That was good. And I understood a word. But that's it. Alcohol. Hola, buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
So yes, again, margarita. We were gonna do like a nice iced coffee on the deck, but there's loud music, so darn it, another margarita.
So we've been MIA for a few
Weeks.
I wouldn't say weeks. We've been MIA for
Ooh.
maybe a little bit over a week.
Mm.
And anyway, so this video we're going to talk about the process of buying property here in Mexico. But before we get started, again, thanks to everyone for watching the videos. Thanks for all the subscribers.
Yeah, and if you started out following us with the RV and you're still hanging on when we're bouncing around figuring out this Mexico thing, thank you. So first things first, there is not like somewhere you can magically look like in the States and find every listing that is for sale, property or houses, whatever. So you have to do your research, talk to people, talk to realtors, and then or even just walk around the area that you're interested in. I mean, we did that at some point too.
And let me preface everything this video by saying this is just our experience purchasing land here, and it's more than likely going to differ from everybody else's experience.
So there's different routes to go for purchasing land. You can do like all the footwork, find your land, do the steps that way, or you can go with a realtor, and then you have everything in one, and they take care of all the steps. You just wait for them to let you know, or you have to reach out to them. We found out that you don't really hear anything until you like prompt them, like, "Hey, what's going on? Anything new?" And then they have lots of information to share. And also, it went pretty fast. They said 3 months, and it ended up being 4. But people that have done their own legwork, they went up to a year over. If you don't do the realtor route, then you're gonna most likely need to find yourself an attorney anyway. You could have one like everything in that bundle with the realtor, or you again find everything you need.
So after we found the property that we were interested in, we put in the offer. Then we had to. This is where it kind of differs. Well, the whole process is different than in the States. If you're accustomed to buying land in the States, you can throw that all out the window. This is a completely different world down here. All of Baja, it's within a certain distance to the ocean. So if you're a foreigner, you're not Mexican, you're going to have to get a fideicomiso fiduciary to control the land or your house or whatever it is that you're purchasing. You can't just get the deed outright. It'll be in your name, but it'll be held or controlled by a bank. And ours is good for 50 years. And every 50 years, it has to be renewed. So that's what takes some time in the process. And then the land that we bought, it was also a part of, I'm going to butcher the name, it's a Ejido land. So it's kind of like a local indigenous tribe people. I know I've butchered that, but bottom line, it belonged to a collective group of people. And this one person is selling land out of the Ejido. It just means that there's an extra step that you have to go through in order to rightfully get it to the state that you can legally purchase it and not have problems down the road. And they have to do the what is called a first right of refusal, which means that for the first 30 days after the offer was accepted, it has to be pretty much put back on the market for someone within that area and that tribe to purchase it. If no one purchases it during that time, then it's free and clear to be sold to a foreigner because they gave them the first right to purchase the land. So that's really what that meant. But that has to be done, otherwise there could be problems.
Right. So next one is be prepared to have unexpected costs with your closing. So as soon as we got into contract into escrow, they informed us that it's going to be another 7,000, or it was like two different payments, but it was like 7,000, and we're trying to be like, okay, this is this is part of what we're already going to be paying that we already knew that we agreed on, and they're like, no, this is separate. So from hearing from other people talk, be prepared to pay 5 to 10,000 more than what you're agreeing to pay.
So, and a part of that was, I'm sure they explained it to us. We are accustomed to purchasing property in the United States. And so when they explained it to us, my guess is we kind of glossed over what they were saying because it's just not something we're accustomed to. Like, okay, yeah, sure, we're going to pay this, but it's coming out of the money that we're paying for the land. That is not the case. Like, I wouldn't buy land in the United States and still pay the person's property taxes that I'm purchasing it from. That's not something you do. So I think maybe they explained it. We just didn't understand it. So that's something you need to be prepared for and to ask those questions is are there any other fees that are above? And
So another thing that was not something we're accustomed to is for the escrow, there's two payment accounts. So once we got back to the States and then we had to start, paying these fees, it's not a good feeling when you're in a different country, you're trying to buy outside of your country, and they're telling you you need to wire it to this account and this much to this account. We're like, whoa, why isn't it the same? Even our bank in the US was like, if this is not legit, your money's gone. Like, how long did he have to talk to you? Like, probably an
I
hour.
think I was on the phone for an hour to the point where they say, "Look, we're going to record this conversation because you're getting scammed. This doesn't sound right." So just be prepared. Not saying it's going to happen to everyone, but in our situation,
And we
there
weren't
were
scammed. Yeah.
yes, there were two different accounts. There was a service account and an escrow account, and we had to make two separate payments into those.
hmm Next one is um, lesson learned for us. We did not know or think to do this, but if you can agree to the amount in pesos, if you're coming from the US or from another country, you could get it possibly down if you get your money exchanged at a higher rate.
I think this one is pretty big because we agreed to our price in dollars,
hmm
and we know the exchange rate goes up and down, but for the most part, the dollar is stronger than most other currencies. So you can almost bank on if you agree on a price in dollars, that locks you into whatever that rate is. Whereas if we had agreed to purchase the land in pesos and say the dollar had risen against the peso, then we would have been able to transfer the money over and even saved and still paid them the agreed upon amount.
Yeah.
But if you were to look at it from the point that we signed the contract to then, the dollar was higher, which meant that in theory, we paid more than what we should have paid.
Our experience, we had to sign in person, and they let us know ahead of time that they gave us an idea that it was going to be about 3 months. So we planned to get all of our stuff done in the US that we needed to do and be back in time for that. We did get back within that 3 month, just anticipation, and it ended up being an extra month, but we were planning on being here anyway. We had the time, so it worked out. So I don't know if there's options, at least for us, there wasn't, and we didn't push it because we knew we wanted to come back and we wanted to be here. So we didn't have to be anywhere else.
In order to do the fideicomiso, we had to give up a copy of our social security number, not the actual card, but just write our social security number down. Give up a copy of our passports. I'm like, well, I'm coming from America. What does that have to do with here? What's my social security number? But nonetheless, it was something that was required for the document.
For the closing, the sellers actually came quite a bit later. I think they set that up that way. I'm not sure, but they showed up at the end once our part was done with interpreter, which was good because our interpreter was very thorough, which was nice. We don't feel like we missed anything. Like, he went over every single document. It was a lot. And then once you're done, we were able to leave, and then the sellers were in there, and we said hi, thank you, and we took off. So out of all those packets of stuff, like the papers that we signed, we only got one sheet of paper. On that one sheet of paper, though, we did see that it has like the coordinates or the lot number. So if you're ready to build as soon as you close on your property, then that has everything that you need on there to get that started with your architect.
Again, if you bought property in the United States, you know that for the most part, you can just docu-sign everything and you're done. That is not the case here. You have to physically show up, or I guess you could have signed something to have someone show up for you. But in our case, we were there to sign all the documents, and it's a huge deal. Everyone, to include the attorney that has all the paperwork, they're going to be there signing everything. And I'm not going to lie to you, it can be overwhelming. I felt overwhelmed there. I just couldn't shake the feeling that there was something bad about it. All right, I just felt.
There's a saying,
Yeah.
you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like you're
Yeah.
waiting for something
Yeah.
bad to come out of it.
Yeah, nothing felt right about it, and maybe it's just us coming from the United States and the way I perceive things. But I was just very on edge the entire time, even though we were there, and everything seemed legit. But I was just waiting for something to happen that didn't happen.
Well, another thing, just to be extra careful or cautious, is before we were supposed to meet up, we drove to Cabo and met up with the notary's assistant to go over all the documents, and he went over everything and made peace of mind.
Yes.
So
Now we were able to see that everything was done. All the stuff that we thought that would delay the process or to prevent us from actually closing. I'm from Jamaica originally. We have this laid back mentality in Jamaica. It's the same here in Mexico. It's a very laid back, almost to the point where you feel like it's lazy. It's not. It's just, they're just laid back. And if you want something, you can press them for it. You can ask them for it. You'll get the information. The information
they're
is
quick
usually,
to give it to you.
it's there. It's just that they're not just forthright to just hand over the information to you. I'm not saying they're waiting for you to ask for it, but it's just how it is. And I think those things didn't help me and how skeptical I am about everything, because I felt like, okay, well, why did you wait for me to ask you if you already knew it? Coming from America, the biggest thing I can say is take a step back, who saw a little bit. It'll be all right. What would you recommend to someone who is considering coming here and buying land or a house?
Yes, the biggest thing is do your research. Start joining Facebook groups. If you're not here, even if you are here, it's good. You start meeting people that have gone through it or going through it. Then you hear their experiences. I don't think any two experiences are going to be alike in this situation, but just to give you a broad, like it could be this extreme or this extreme, and hope for the best.
I think also I would suggest that you spend time in the place.
True.
Wherever it is that you're going to buy, spend time there. Try to be as local as you can. Local meaning, even if it's 2 weeks, preferably more than that if you're going to make that big of an investment. Spend time there, because what we've found is that each of these towns have their own vibe. They have their own feeling. When we were coming down back in January, we met some folks who bought property in Mulegé, and as much as we liked driving through Mulegé, we couldn't.
It's beautiful, yeah.
It's beautiful, but we didn't connect with it. We like going through Laredo. It's beautiful there too. We didn't connect with it. Even in La Paz, where we are now, we weren't in love with it when we were here back in March.
I was really liking it because I came into town did a couple girls' days and I enjoyed it. But yes, he didn't really get to. But there's so much in the city. There's so many these cool restaurants. The people are like, you can walk down the street, every single person will greet you. Thank you for joining us today. Hopefully you found it helpful. And if you're interested in, I guess, the process or anything, because we're going through it all right now, go ahead and drop us a comment. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. Then you'll be able to know when we decide to pop on here again.
Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment down below.